Hi all. It's Sunday, June 30th, and I just wanted to talk about a few of these things. There's all kinds of stuff going on in the news, of course, and I just put down a list of a few things that I wanted to highlight. Talk about. Maybe not everybody gets to see this stuff. Um, but first off, the thing that caught my attention about a week or so ago was the Michael Hastings, the reporter who died in a car accident. He was probably most famous for a Rolling Stone article that he put out in 2010, and it highlighted General Stanley McChrystal. He was basically a commander of NATO forces, Afghanistan, and all kinds of stuff. And there was a big fallout for that. And he's definitely put out a few articles since then. He talked about General Petraeus and different things like that. But he recently died in a car accident, and there is a theory that it was a cyber attack on the car. The car was a 2013 Mercedes, uh, and it was definitely, top of the line and all that. So probably very easy actually to hack into, I would imagine. And evidently he went through a stoplight, went straight through the stoplight, and hit a tree or something like that, and died on impact, or I think something like that. But it's definitely fishy, so I wanted to point that out. The next thing I think it's really interesting is the Italian Prime Minister, former Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi, has been sentenced to 7 years in prison for underage prostitution, charges. So I mean that's a pretty big deal. I mean he's a leader of a country, so I mean what if that happened here? You know what I'm saying? So, but anyway. Another thing that caught my eye was a Huffington Post article here. Irish people have become pagans, a association of Catholic priests. Something has definitely caught my eye about Ireland. I've just been, kind of watching them and seeing what's going on over there. I'm not all too familiar with their history, but I know they've definitely been oppressed and stuff like that. So it's interesting to me to see, how they are kind of breaking free of different restraints. Also, there was the Irish Prime Minister promises probe against bankers who duped government with figures, quote, picked from their arse. So I guess back after the recession, whenever banks were trying to get a bunch of money, there was a taped audio, a phone conversation where these two bankers were just kind of joking back and forth about how they were just making up numbers, and the countries were buying into it and they'll just figure it out as they go and stuff like that. And it's just total BS. So that's a really interesting thing. Hopefully that gets cracked down on. The next thing is I've heard rumors that Cardinal Bertone, the second highest position in the Vatican, has possibly resigned, might possibly resign, something along those lines. It's definitely interesting, especially seeing as the Pope just resigned in February, and so that doesn't happen very often. So to see if it's true that the second has resigned as well, that's a major step. Also, I heard in mainstream media there was some sort of financial scandal going on in the Vatican, around 26 million euros, dollars, something like that. But something that really caught my attention was there's this Vatican rent boy and Satanism claims revealed by pedophile priest Don Patrizio Poggi, something like that. And evidently, this guy, 46, told Italian authorities that there were 9 different clergymen in the Vatican who were, in relations with underage boys and stuff like that, and so that's kind of, if it's true, I would like to, think that it makes sense that if this guy, because this guy evidently, this Don Patrizio. He went to prison, I guess, for 5 years or something like that for some, pedophilia or something like that. And I guess he got out. He tried to get back into the Vatican, and they were like, no. So he's like, well, I'm going to tell on you, and so he's been spilling his guts. So that's really interesting. Especially, also supposedly, he handed out he also accused the former of Carabinieri of selling consecrated hosts for satanic rites. So there's just interesting things going there. I know there's all kinds of craziness going on in the Vatican. I'm not a big fan, but anyway. So that's happening. Good news. Moving on. Snowden, definitely NSA guy. He's got a lot of support, and there's a lot rolling behind this guy. I can't imagine being in his shoes right now. I mean, he's about my age, and I cannot imagine being where he's at right now. He got the whole world looking at him, watching everything he does. But anyway, one thing I'm big on is BRICS. BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. That union, it was BRIC, now it's BRICS. It's been BRICS for a few years now, and they are a major force in the world. Back in March, BRICS plan new $50 billion bank to rival World Bank and IMF. So BRICS are setting up their own, economic structure, and based on different fringe sources and channelings and different things like that. I think from what I understand, they wanted to use that money for development. Ben Fulford, from what I understand, he explains there's a way to make the deserts green. You only need a few $100 billion to eradicate poverty. And world hunger and all that kind of stuff. And it's just been, I put up this meme today. I guess somebody pointed out that for the amount of money that we've spent in Iraq so far, we could put everybody in America through higher education for like the next 58 years. And so that's a big deal. So we have to stop at some point and look at where we're spending all of the money, where it's all going. And it's really going in to mostly war and stuff like that. America's the war machine. So BRICS is, a force that is against that, I believe. And so Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, aligned with 100 and some other little quote unquote third world nations, stuff like that. These have all aligned, and they are what I believe combating the Western cabal, the force that has been a plague on humanity for God knows how long. So when Snowden stops off first in China and then in Russia, I'm wondering, if he's, working specifically with BRICS. I feel that this is a coordinated movement, and the United States will never get him. Russia, there's no way. If he stays in Russia, they'll never get him. So it's all good news. The Brazil protests and stuff like that. That's big stuff. I feel like the president of Brazil is at least willing to work with the people, at least moving in that direction. So, there's good stuff going on around in there. Also, there's definitely something popping up in Egypt. There's protests going on right now. There's live streams as of today, Sunday, June 30th, for protests in Egypt. And I saw there's an article, 400 U.S. troops to deploy to Egypt. I guess they trained at Fort Hood to get ready to go to Egypt for a while. So the government might be anticipating something getting ready to pop off there. So keep your eyes on Egypt as well. Next thing, Ecuador snubs U.S. trade, quote, blackmail over Snowden, offers human rights training. Ecuador, evidently said, you know what, we cannot be blackmailed, United States, over your piddly, whatever it is, $23 million. You can take that $23 million and use it towards human rights training. So they definitely called out the United States because hopefully it will avoid violations of privacy, torture, and other actions that are denigrating to humanity. Yeah, so somebody, it's a good, the United States getting called out on some pretty intense stuff right now. The world is, getting some, gumption up. So also, good things happening. I I've heard that there were some GM crops that were burned over in Europe. Some major crops that were set ablaze to destroy them completely. Also, there was the 40 tons. Supposedly, there's 40 tons of GMO crops that were burned in America, in Oregon. I think it was sugar beets. Yeah, sugar beets. 40 tons of GMO sugar beets in eastern Oregon supposedly were set on fire. So that's an interesting thing. Good for them. Next thing, 50,000 dead Oregon bees to be honored in memorial service. There have been at least a couple different incidents of mass die-offs of like 25,000 bees at a time. And I think they've definitely linked it to a pesticide, and it's been banned. As I'm trying to find it, the name of it right off, but it's definitely been linked to a pesticide, and I've been saying that for a couple of years now. That I feel Monsanto might be trying to get rid of the bees, so maybe to replace them with some sort of genetically modified bees of their own. Who knows? But getting rid of the bees is not good. It's not good at all. So that's definitely something that requires some attention. So at least there's a memorial service going on. So that's good. Next thing, U.S. feds make their first ever Bitcoin seizure. I think that's an interesting thing too. Bitcoin is something worth paying attention to. It's a digital currency. It's basically not backed by any government central bank or anything like that. It's some sort of software program that's designed to continuously generate funds to be dispersed throughout all the users and stuff like that. So and if if you have a business and you're willing to trade your goods for this currency, then it works just as well as any other type of currency. So Bitcoin is definitely attacking the central banks. It's definitely worth paying attention to. And as of recently, the U.S. Feds seized a bit of it from a South Carolina guy, Eric Hughes, who supposedly was trying to buy illegal substances with it. Whether that's true or not, who knows? But they seized like $800 worth of Bitcoin. So that's a first. So it's definitely worth paying attention to. The Army restricts. U.S. Army restricts access to Guardian website over secrets and NSA leak stories. Of course, I was in the Army for a few years, and it's just fascinating to me to see that if they have closed off their networks to this mainstream open source public news in Europe just to hide their personnel from it. If nothing else, they can at least hide their personnel from it, and so that just tickles me. So there's that. And also, what's next? This is not so good, but it's definitely blatant. So, California man faces 13 years in jail for scribbling anti-bank messages in chalk. From what I understand, he wrote something like "Shame on Bank of America" or something like that. It wasn't even crude or anything. It was just calling out the banks because they're doing bad stuff, and they're slamming him right now. He's not only could he go to jail for 13 years, but he might get fined over $13,000 on top of it. And the judge has issued an unprecedented gag order, and says that it bars Olson's attorney from mentioning the First Amendment, free speech, free expression, public forum, expressive conduct, or political speech during the trial. Because they're just saying that it's purely vandalism, and you can't even bring up the fact that it's free speech or anything like that. It's kind of horrifying, but it's definitely getting attention, international attention. So hopefully good things come from this. And I think, and lastly, I just wanted to call out aspartame, saccharin, and sucralose. Those are your major artificial sweeteners. I'm not familiar with any others. Sucralose is in Splenda, and I'm basically calling that one out because it's also in Neo. And I was drinking Neo and all that, but aspartame is in Equal, and saccharin is in Sweet and Low. And all of those ingredients have, some of them are banned in other countries, and it's been known to cause cancer and all kinds of bad stuff. I put up another article earlier this week. 80% of prepackaged foods in America are banned in other countries. So there's all kinds of little ingredients that are in like most things that Americans eat that are just illegal at very hefty fines and sometimes even jail time if they're found in products in other countries. I guess that covers all of it. Also, I wanted to point out um, Russia Today is a great news source. Most of what I just talked about was covered by Russia Today. And it's not only covered by Russia Today, but it's covered well by Russia Today. RT. They've got a green RT logo, and if you look them up, you can get their feed on Facebook and stuff like that, and then you'll just automatically get everything that they put out. And Russia Today has an English-speaking, American, set up in Washington D.C. They have, American English-speaking anchors and stuff like that. So, it's not in Russian or anything like that. It's just funded by Russia from kind of an outside perspective. So it's in today, these times, it's really good to take a look at things from an outside perspective. So I definitely recommend Russia Today. Um, yeah, that covers everything. And until next time, namaste.